I wasn't going to mention the hat at all. Would you like me to talk about the hat?
I think you can not talk about it.
I think I could not talk about the hat. Like why does this dumbass on TV have a beanie hat with a propeller? No, they are going to see 6 minutes of the show and they are going to know that this hat is, oh, hi everybody. Welcome to April. It's Keith Explains time. I hope they push the buttons in the room. Look, I'm looking at the wrong camera. We got a studio full of studio professionals, and I'm still doing it wrong. And before we started, they were like, "You got to talk about that hat." I wasn't going to talk about the hat. I have a hat on. I have a hat on merely because as I was leaving my house, I remember that it was raining outside in California right now, which it does for about 3 months of the year, every 15 years. And this is those 3 months of that 15 years when it's raining out. And so I was like, I should get a hat so my hair doesn't get wet. And then I remembered, I don't care if my hair gets wet. I'm not going to be outside that long. But I kind of walked over to where my hats are, and then I saw my beanie hat, and I thought, I haven't worn the beanie hat on TV for a while. And I'm the kind of nerd that owns a hat with a propeller beanie on top of it. And if you don't show this kind of thing off every once in a while, the IRS doesn't let you deduct it from your taxes. So now this hat has become deductible against the vast Keith Explains empire profits. And it's just sweet, sweet cash for me is what it is. Anyway, welcome to the show. As you know, we didn't tape last month. I say as we know, but you didn't care. No one noticed that we didn't tape. I didn't get any emails. Hey, Keith, are you okay? Anything wrong? Is there a reason you didn't tape this month? I think I'd mentioned in February we weren't taping in March. We weren't taping in March because I was on a boat when we would have ordinarily been taping. I was not even in America when we should have been taping this TV show. I was, I believe, Thursday night. I was on a boat in the Mexican waters, and I'm pretty sure I was drunk. In fact, I'm almost certain I was drunk because every night in the boat, I had stuff to drink because we bought one of them drink packages where drinks are basically, you paid for them up front, so they're basically free. So I would just go to bars and I would pick the next beverage I hadn't had yet, and I'll say I'll have one of those. And if I'm recalling correctly, Thursday night I think is when, so I'm on a boat. I'm on a boat full of nerds. I'll get to this later if I have time. Boat full of nerds, bars, drink package. So I just wave the badge and they make me a drink, whatever drink I ask for. And then I always tip them $2 in a $2 bill. So they'd gotten used to me. I'm the guy, the crazy guy with the $2 bills. And I've been working my way through the drink menus, drinking one of everything. And then I said, hey, what can you make that's interesting? And he said, have you had a weng weng yet? And I was like, I have not. I haven't seen it in the menus. He's like, it's not in the menus. And I was like, okay, make me a weng weng. And near as I can tell, based on anecdotal evidence from the following morning, he just poured some of every alcohol they had behind the bar into a glass and then gave it like 2 shakes and then carefully handed it to me as if it would explode. And then I went off and drank it. Friday morning, I think a lot of people were like, hey, Keith, are you okay? I'm like, yes, why? And they're like, well, you seemed kind of drunk last night. And I was like, no, I'm a professional. I drink a lot. That was, I don't know. Anyway, welcome to April to Keith Explains. I made a long list of things to talk about because that's what I do. And we're going to talk about some of them. First up is running. As you recall, back in November or December or when, I mentioned that I was trying to run more because I'm fat and I need the exercise, but I'm cheap, and so I don't have exercise equipment in my house. And so what I do to exercise is I pull on my bag of sweatpants and my sweatshirt, and I put my heart monitor on, and I get my phone and my headphones, and then I go out and I run. And I say run, but I really mean jog, because I've seen people that run, and I see them from the back as they rapidly recede into the distance, because they are moving quickly, and I am moving slowly because I am jogging. So I was doing okay, like November, December. I was jogging like 3 or 4 times a week. I was getting out. I was doing 8 or 10K pretty frequently. And then, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned this before, I got the plantar fasciitis, or as I think of it, the screw you, stop running for a while, you're old, your body is breaking down disease. Where my foot, for no reason whatsoever, hurt, and the doctors told me they couldn't do a damn thing about it because it wasn't actually anything. It was just a muscle that was pulled and unhappy, and if I was lucky, it would go away, and if I wasn't lucky, welcome to being old. Your foot's going to hurt all the time. So since then, my foot still hurts a lot, although it gets better. Like I've been icing it. Like I have these little things. I just go home and I put my foot in the pad and I sit there for a while and I watch the TV and my foot's cold and then it feels a little better. I do these stretches. I do these weird stretches in the stairway. Like if you want to creep people out, just stand at the top of a stairway with your foot kind of over the edge, kind of bouncing, your weight up and down on your foot. Because people come out and they see you at the top of the stairway and they think, well, clearly he is coming up the stairs. And then like 3 seconds later, they notice you haven't actually moved. And then as they get closer to you, they notice you're stuck on the stairway. And occasionally there's this brief flash of, is something wrong? Do I need to go get help? Is he, oh no, he's just standing there doing a thing with, and then they just walk by in silence because they don't want to make eye contact in case I'm a crazy person. So I got the foot stretching thing I do. And eventually, anyway, and I was doing all this because I was training for a marathon, which as we know is something a person like me should never do because it is too long and I'm too old and too out of shape. And I would still like to manage to get to a marathon before July, before I turn 51. See, then I could say I ran a marathon when I was 50, and everyone would go like, "My God, you must be a fit guy in shape." I'd be like, "No, I'm just a dumb guy that thought I could run a marathon when I was 50." That's what I've been doing, right? So I didn't run for like 2 months because they were like, "Your foot's bad," and like a couple weeks ago, after I got back from boat, because I'd walked around the boat a lot, and my foot hurt. And I did stuff on the boat, and my foot would hurt, my foot wouldn't hurt. There was one night on the boat, they had Nerd Prom, where this band that I kind of know just held they played music from the 80s for prom, and we all went there to this tiny little nightclub, and they played the music, and everyone wore fancy clothes as if it were prom. Like you'd wear what you wore to prom, but I didn't wear what I wore to prom because I just rented that. So I wore my checked suit, which is a suit, it's a black and white suit, it's covered with check marks, which everyone was like, "Hey, cool suit." And I was like, and then at prom I did the only kind of dancing I know how to do, which is hopping. And then the next morning, this is the reason I'm on the topic, the next morning I had to sit in my room with my foot in a bag of ice for half an hour because it really hurt. But then it got better. And so after I got back from the boat, it occurred to me, I just got to give up on my foot hurting. I'm just going to start running again, just short distances. Hi, this isn't going to edit in cleanly. I want you to know something terrible happened here in the studio. Something terrible that is probably my fault. And so we had to stop recording for a little while, and then we're going to start recording again. And here's the funny thing. We don't know when exactly the terrible thing happened. So now I have to go back and talk about all the things that I was talking about after the terrible thing happened, but we don't know when that is. So we're guessing that I hadn't yet talked about Nerd Prom on the boat. And so now I'm going to mention, so I'm on the foot, right? My foot hurts. I'm walking around all the time. My foot hurts. It's slowly getting better. And one night in the boat, they had Nerd Prom, it's like regular prom, except it's in a boat full of nerds. And when I was in high school, I was terribly scared and embarrassed and shy at prom. But Nerd Prom on the boat, I'm old. I don't care what y'all think anymore. I'm going to put on my checkered black and white suit, and I'm going to go to Nerd Prom, and I'm going to drink my free beverages. And I'm going to dance to the 80s music that they're playing at Nerd Prom. And by dance, I mean I'm going to do the only thing I can do these days for dancing, which is hop. I just hop up and down, hopefully to the beat of the music. Someone told me a while ago the whole purpose of a bass in a band is the bass is the rhythm. So I try to listen to the bass and then I hop to the bass or to the drum. Just whatever, I hop a lot, which from the perspective of the foot is important because after I spent like 2 hours hopping while somewhat drunk, the next morning my foot really, really hurt. And so I had to have them bring me a couple containers full of ice. And then I stuck them in this bag we have that we had stuffed full of cheese in a can. It was clean, people. So then I had this insulated bag that previously had held cheese full of ice into which I just plunged my foot. And I just sat there and watched the TV for a while, which was showing other stuff on the ship. It was great. That was that. So after we get back from the boat, I decided to start running again because my foot doesn't hurt when I'm running, as I discovered. So I'm slowly trying to work myself back up to where I can get to a marathon before I turn 51, at which point I assume I'm going to die or something, or be unable to run a marathon. Maybe they'll have stopped running by then, or they won't do them. They'll just send me a letter like, "Dear Mr. Statenfield, you are no longer allowed to run more than 8K at a time. We're worried about you. Please don't run a marathon." Okay, so that's that whole thing. So I've been to a couple runs since then, just myself, and I'd already paid for them. A couple of those weekend runs where they close the streets and everyone hates you. They drive by and they honk, and then you're like, "Screw you, people, we paid." And then whenever I run, I'm a nerd, so I have to use little apps to run to keep track so I can later go back and look at the maps. I never go look at them, but I could. Like, I have numbers. So like I know how fast I ran, and I've figured stuff out. Like, I don't like running up hills. I lose like 10% of my speed running up hills. And I've said I don't run fast. So that just means worse. But then downhill, I don't go 10% faster downhill. I only go like 8% faster downhill. So like a perfectly flat course, I could run 2% faster than it's crazy. And then after I finish running, when I'm in the little Runkeeper app and I say done, and it says, "How was the run?" and it's got the 3 little pictures. It's got the sad face, and it's got the smiling face. I never pick smiling face. I don't know who would ever pick smiling face at the end of a run. I generally pick the face, and occasionally I pick the sad face. And then I take a picture of me after the run, all sweaty, with a hat on, just all sweaty, just looking. And then it saves that photo. I don't know why. Maybe they're looking at photos with AI, going like, does his face in the picture match the face he picked? And then it asks me questions like, "What shoes did you use?" And I always just say like, "My shoes," because I got one set of shoes really. Who'd you run with? Nobody. I'm too slow. And then it says, "Do you want to post to Facebook?" And I always say yes. And I always post it to Facebook, and it posts this picture to Facebook, that picture I just took, and then it superimposes the distance and my pitiful speed to Facebook. And I do that for 2 reasons. First of all, it vaguely keeps me honest. See, I've told you people I'm trying to run. If you follow me on Facebook, you could see my pictures. And secondly, I desperately want your approval. Like, I desperately want all the people that then see that photo to click like so that I think they like me for some sad... That's what I do. That's what I do. It helps me. I got the Apple Watch, so like I get all my rings closed, whatever good that does. Like all these people I know, like during the day it's constantly telling me that this person closed their rings or this person closed their rings. I very rarely manage to see. I didn't even close my rings yet. There's that. That's running. That's really all I got to say about running. I'm still hoping to do a marathon by July. Not sure if I'm going to get there. I might have to do 2 half marathons. I mean, that would vaguely count if I did them close enough together. Yeah. What else? Hamilton. We went and saw Hamilton. It's a musical. It's up in San Francisco. You probably heard of it. You probably heard of it. You either desperately want to go see Hamilton, or Hamilton's that thing that the Vice President Pence went to where they talk to him, and so they're terrible people. And I'll briefly describe the plot. For those of you that know about Hamilton, you know what the plot is. It's a musical based on the life of Alexander Hamilton, comma, one of America's founding fathers, who was shot in a duel like in his 40s or late 30s, I don't remember when, 40s. And so, like everyone knows he's one of the founding fathers, kind of. He's on the $10 bill. He's that guy. He's the guy that, he did a lot of stuff. It's a lovely musical. If you have a spare $1,200, you should buy a ticket to it to go watch it. If you don't have a spare $1,200, you should spend $12 and buy the soundtrack. And it's almost as good, which I know because like a couple years ago, I'd vaguely heard of Hamilton the musical. I knew it was kind of popular on Broadway. And then we went on this nerd cruise like 3 years ago, and people were like singing Hamilton songs, and I was like, oh, okay, Hamilton, whatever. People know the songs, must have seen the musical. And then like a couple weeks later, after we got back, like one of my friends was like, hey, the Hamilton soundtrack is on sale today. You should buy it. It's like $8. And I was like, sure, I'll go buy it. And I bought it, didn't think anything more of it. Just sat in my iTunes library for a while. And then we were driving back from Lake Tahoe, because we were up there for Thing. I was like, hey, I guess we could listen to the Hamilton soundtrack, because it's like a 3.5-hour drive home, and it's like a 3-hour soundtrack. So we could hear it, because I've heard it's good, and other people hum it. And then we had a tiny mistake. The first time we tried to listen to the Hamilton soundtrack, my phone was in shuffle mode. It doesn't make a lot of sense in shuffle mode. We figured that out about the third song. It's like, does this seem plot-wise like? And I was like, look, oh, we're in shuffle mode. That's why nothing makes sense. So then we put it in non-shuffle mode. We said track 1, play track 1, keep going. And by the time we got home, we had heard the Hamilton soundtrack, and it was pretty freaking good. And I was sad because, as you know, it turns out the musical's kind of sad in the second act, and it's sad at the end because Hamilton gets killed in a duel. I give that away. Hashtag spoilers. If you didn't know that, you never paid attention in history class. So I don't feel terrible about you. Or you're Canadian. I'm sure that's on the citizenship test, though. I mean, I think Canadians probably learn about American history. I mean, why wouldn't they? How much Canadian history could there be? Polar bears? Native people? Hate the French? America. I don't know a lot about Canada. Although I do think I probably need to learn more about Canada, because I don't think they'll let me come live there if I don't know a lot about Canada, and we all might need to be moving to Canada, people. That's what I'm saying. Don't want to give it away. Anyway, so Hamilton, right? We had listened to the soundtrack. We listened to it once because I thought I thought we should listen to this. I paid $8. I don't want to waste that money. But it was good enough that I've listened to it a bunch since then. If you were going to put out $1,200 to go buy Hamilton tickets, which again, if you're rich, if $1,200 is the kind of money that you might just find in your couch and go, oh, I'd wondered where that was, then you should spend $1,208, and you should buy the soundtrack and listen to it a couple times before you go to the play. Because first of all, it is very fast, and a lot of stuff happens, and I think you're just going to miss stuff if you're going in blind, hoping that your 3-hour thing at Hamilton's going to be enough. It's a recommendation. You don't have to do that. If you're $1,200 rich, you don't need to listen to me, is what I'm saying. But yeah, it was a great musical. We went and saw it. I sat down and turned to the woman next to me and said, I hope you don't mind if there's some humming. She said, no, everyone hums. And we were singing the songs, and then the sad songs. The theater got very dusty. Theater got very, very dusty a couple times. There was nothing I could do. Very, very dusty. My eyes were very watery from the dust, people. And we got to the end. I said it made me sad. It made me sad for a couple reasons. First time it just made me sad because it's sad. And the second time, we saw it twice. Did I mention we saw it twice? Because we're season ticket holders. We could buy an extra pair of tickets. and there's no one that I like more in my life who I would give my other pair of Hamilton tickets to than me. So we went and saw it twice, people. And the second time, like, I got to the end and I was sad because the musical's sad. But I was also sad for two other reasons, which the first time hadn't quite occurred to me. The first reason was it occurred to me suddenly that our country is kind of screwed up now. And it was kind of screwed up then. But I think when it was kind of screwed up then, it still seemed like it worked. Like everyone seemed to care and was trying to do the right thing. And I don't know if that's true anymore. Like, I kind of think the opposite of that is true now. So that made me further upset. And the second thing that made me upset is it occurred to me that all of the people managed to get a huge amount accomplished a day. Whereas I struggled to get even a couple things done, like I said at work. And I managed to fix like 2 bugs after hours and hours of work. And then I realized that like some of the people wrote like 40 essays, each 20 pages long. Like, we're taking 2 days, we're gonna write a 30-page essay, and 250 years later, people will still be reading that essay and going, this is a great essay, look at all this cool stuff in it. I don't think I'm ever gonna be that smart or good at anything. In my vague defense, I think cocaine was legal in the 1780s. So maybe they were all really high and that's why they could write so fast. I did mention vacation. We weren't taping last month because we took a 2-week vacation. We went down, we saw Hearst Castle. We'd never seen Hearst Castle. I'd heard of it. Like, I told my parents a couple times, hey, you should go see Hearst Castle. Both because I think they might enjoy Hearst Castle, and because since they come visit me for like 3 weeks at a time, occasionally I would like to get rid of them for a couple days. And Hearst Castle is just far enough away that maybe you could do it as a day trip, but it'd be better if you like got a hotel in the area and went down and spent a day or two and drove around, looked at some things. It'd be nice, Mom and Dad. You could see Hearst Castle. Give me a break is what I'm saying. Hearst Castle, just we drove down to San Diego, so we kind of drove past Hearst Castle. So we drove to San Luis Obispo, and then we went to Hearst Castle the next day, and then we drove to North Los Angeles, and then we went to Universal Studios and Hearst Castle. So we left our hotel, and I'd been told it's like a 45-minute drive, and I get in the car, and I punch in the mumble Waze numbers, and it's like, you're an hour and 15 minutes away from Hearst Castle. And I'm like, that's not good, because we're an hour away from our appointment at Hearst Castle. So I'm driving quickly towards Hearst Castle along Highway 1. Beautiful views off this direction of the ocean periodically as we come around the curves. And then it's like, hey, you're half an hour away from Hearst Castle. And there's a sign on the right that's like, Hearst Castle, next exit, quarter mile. And I turn, and then I realized what had gone wrong. I had punched in the actual address for Hearst Castle. You don't get to actually drive to Hearst Castle. You drive to a visitor center, and then they put you on a bus, and the bus drives you 25 minutes up this road to Hearst Castle. We were on time. It was great. We got on the bus. We saw this big, ornate house built by a billionaire. These days, we call him a billionaire. Back then, he was just a millionaire, multi-millionaire. A house that he built and loved, but only managed to live in for a couple months every couple years, because that's what millionaires do. I didn't get it. It was nice. Then we drove down to Universal Studios. Right, we got down there the next day. We saw the West Coast version of Harry Potter Land, which was a lot like the East Coast version of Harry Potter Land, which we saw in Florida last year. And I had as many butterbeers as I could cram into my body without going into some kind of diabetic coma. They're delightful. Everyone should go get a butterbeer. We discovered a new kind of butterbeer. You can buy a butterbeer, and then you can go into they have bars in Universal Studios where you can buy adult beverages, and you can say, I would like a shot of fire whiskey. And they're like, here is your shot of fire whiskey, sir. For God's sakes, don't pour that into your butterbeer. And I'd be like, no, I am not going to pour this shot of fire whiskey into this delightful butterbeer here. I would never do that. It was great, people, is what I'm saying. We had another donut in Simpsons Land. Big, huge donut with orange frosting.
Pink.
Pink frosting. Pink frosting. What am I thinking? Orange. Pink. I already yelled pink from the other room, and I heard it. That's how upset she was. I got the color wrong. And it's huge. It was a huge donut. No one makes donuts that big in the real world, but here it was more like a cake with pink frosting than a donut. Although I mean, technically, I guess cakes are just large. Well, they're not deep fried. Cakes are non-deep fried large donuts in some vague food way. We went on the Universal Studio tour. Look, I'm not even going to finish all this stuff. Universal Studio tour. When I was in high school, we went to California. We went to Universal Studios. I remember going on the tour. I think I was on exactly the same tour this time. The only thing I recall being the same is we drove past that place with a shark. It was not terribly impressive when I was in high school. It is still not terribly impressive. Some of the rest of the tour was okay. Shark, not impressive, people. We went to Disneyland because we go to Disneyland because we kind of like. We rode on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride twice. We did not take any of our special California brownies, which are legal now, with us on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Although I think if Disneyland's looking for a way to up their profits a little more, which they don't need to, because that's expensive and they're raking cash in. But Mr. Toad's, 2 hours after having one of them magic brownies, I think would be surreal. We went Haunted Mansion. We didn't manage to get in Pirates. It was closed. We were very upset that Pirates of the Caribbean was closed. I talked about Nerd Boat, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even get to that. Facebook. Someone said, Keith, can you talk briefly about Facebook, specifically Facebook profile photos? For God's sakes, if you're on Facebook and you have a profile photo, the profile photo can have one person in it, and that person has to be you. Not your dog, not your cat, not your child. It should be a picture of you. There's one exception. Picture of you with President Obama is allowed. No one else, or maybe Hillary Clinton. Again, you would have had to have been active in the campaign. Picture of you by yourself, not a large group, not you and your best friend from high school. Picture of you. Look, 4, 3, California weather. It's been raining. I talked about raining. I'm not going to get to that. There's an eclipse in August, people. You should plan to go watch it. You can't see it from California. Wyoming is the closest place. I'm not going to say where I'm going to be, although I am going to vacation and watch the eclipse in August. But if you can find me, and I will be on a line where the eclipse is at totality. If you can find me, I will buy you a beer during the eclipse in August. It's a 2.5 minute time. So find me beforehand because I'll be looking up. See you next time, everybody. Are we actually done? Are we taking credit still? Does anyone know? Wow, so I ended too early.